Welcome back to What's Next Longevity Deal Talk. We have some terrific guests joining us to highlight some new partnerships. We'll get started right after this.
Imagine if you could reduce falls in your communities by over 50%. Imagine if you could reduce hospitalizations by 1/3. Imagine if at the same time you could reduce expenditure. I'm Stuart Hamilton, the founder and CEO of Amber, and those results are exactly what our clients are achieving. We deploy discrete passive sensors in the homes of your residents, along with a really simple platform for your caregivers. There are no cameras and no wearables required. At Simpson in Pennsylvania, these are the results we achieved in our first 3 months. Very significant reductions in falls, hospitalizations, and even in psychotropic drug use. Let's hear a few words from the president and CEO of Simpson, Dr. Carol McKinley.
So when I'm sitting with the AMBA creator, the founder, and he's describing to me the various aspects of what AMBA tracks and how it does that, it was like you are talking a vision in my head, and you have now done it, and you have tried it, and it's working. The information that AMBA provides is simple enough that I can look at the dashboard and know that there's something not right, because I can see the red alerts or the yellow alerts that say there's a change here. And I can ask my clinicians what's going on. In the long run, I knew that I needed AMBA just from all of the aspects that it provides. One fall in my organization can create a major lawsuit that can take away a lot of dollars. When you're investing in this type of product, you know that you're having cost savings in one area that helps support the financial end of the investment in technology.
I would love to explore whether and how we could deliver these results in your community. Please contact me via our website at amberhealth.com or drop me an email directly, stu@amber.co. Thanks very much.
I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Mary Furlong, who is sporting a new title, Chief Longevity Officer at Mary Furlong and Associates. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Fred. Yes, we love that new title. It was actually L'Oreal, I think, who said we should have chief longevity officers. And I thought, why not? Let's do that. So here we are, our first podcast for the fall. I'm so excited about the guests and the new partnership they have to talk about.
Well, let's get into it. U.S. Aging and Better Age have a new strategic partnership designed to transform the future of aging. With us from U.S. Aging is CEO Sandy Markwood. Hi, Sandy.
Hey, Fred. Hey, Mary. Wonderful to be with you.
And from Better Age, we are happy to have CEO Diana Yin with us. Hi, Diana.
Hi, Fred. Hi, Mary. Hi, Sandy. We're excited to be here. Thanks for having us on.
Of course. So this is very exciting. Thank you both for joining us on the Longevity Deal Talk podcast. I think we should give everyone a quick background about your organizations. So Sandy, tell us about the amazing work that U.S. Aging does and the mission there. And I saw that firsthand in Chicago with your conference and your board. So tell us more about it.
Thanks, Mary, and thanks so much for being in Chicago. Well, U.S. Aging represents and supports the national network of area agencies on aging, and there's over 600 of them across the nation. They're really the backbone of the community-based services system in this nation and at the local community level. So our mission is to help older adults live with dignity, independence, health, and purpose where they want to age, which is at home and in the community. And we do this through providing a range of services and supports. Nutrition supports like home delivered meals, transportation, in-home supportive services, caregiver supports, social engagement, a whole range of services to really help older adults live well at home and in the community. So our members, the area agencies on aging, are really a trusted resource. And they are, however, under constant pressure to serve more and more older adults with fewer and unfortunately fewer resources. And that's why we look to this partnership and partnerships like this that can expand the capacity and demonstrate impact and help our members meet the moment of meeting the needs of older adults.
And Diana, you've been bringing a lot of technology into the arena. Tell us more about Better Age.
Oh, thank you. So every time Sandy talks about US aging, I am so inspired anew. I think the work is amazing. Better Age fits into and is aligned very much with the mission of US aging. We are a company that's devoted to the health and well-being of older adults and improving that through technology, but also with partnerships. And we had in our early days been working one-on-one with community-based organizations. That is, um, I don't know if I always say, but I don't say it enough, that we build technology with heart and expertise, right? So we always keep in mind the people that we are building the technology for, which is older adults. And we always recognize the importance of the aging network that is on the ground every day, building and nurturing relationships with older adults. So we always want to integrate and fit into the aging network, not do anything that replaces the work that they do. So we try to extend the work that's already working on the ground.
And now you are collaborating. So, Sandy and
Mhm.
Diana, tell us what that means and what it will look like.
Sure. Well, I'll jump in first, Diana, but I know that you'll back me up here because this has been truly an incredible partnership. This is really a case where one and one equals three, not two. U.S. Aging brings trust, reach, and also the network that provides that expert care and improves people's lives. Better Age brings technology, analytics, and that personalized platform to be able to make that work. And in saying that, we have started out this partnership with shared goals and principles, measuring and improving the health and well-being of older adults, reaching and enabling the AAAs to reach and serve more older adults and caregivers earlier on in the process, developing new data and insights to identify and address the needs and disparities that older adults are facing, and to ensure standardizing approaches for measuring well-being, assessing social determinants, and integrating AAAs with the aging network with the healthcare network. So we have been aligned from the beginning, and we are so thrilled that this partnership has come to pass. Diana?
Yeah, I would echo all of that. And I would say that more and more now, all the things that Sandy said are even more important, right? So because data is available, the proof of impact has to be measurable. And people expect that now, right? Because the data is available. But the data is more available for your clinical side, right? And what we like to say is you are more than your medical record, right? But you don't get to see, no one gets to see the more, right? They only see the medical record. And so people become in the healthcare system rather one-dimensional, right? It's just the clinical side. So now we can measure the non-clinical side, all the things that really matter to aging well, like social isolation. Are you socially isolated or not? Do you get proper nutrition? Are you in a food desert or not? Do you have access to healthcare or not? Right. And then all of the things that relate to healthy habits. Are you sleeping well? Right. Do you want to work on sleeping and physical activity? And all? So now we can measure all of that, which is 80% of what drives health outcomes. That we know 20% is only clinical, 80% is non-clinical. But who measures the non-clinical in a standardized way? Now together we can do that, and we can also bring forth a national standard of data across the non-clinical important dimensions. So we can only really do this together. Sandy said it well, where the sum of parts and the parts themselves only are a certain impact, but then together we can bring even more impact, and we can measure all of these things that are so important to healthy aging.
Wow, I love the idea of combining smart technology with human-centered design, and everyone is looking at data. But since this is Deal Talk, let's hear about how the partnership came about. Give us some insight.
Sure. Well, I'll jump in. I mean, we all know that there is a growing aging population, and AAAs really need innovation to be able to meet the growing demand. And Better Age wanted to ensure that their technology reaches people through a trusted and established channel, which are the AAAs. So it was really a partnership based on the history of trust and support within the network, but also with Better Age and the people involved. Diana is incredible. Jim Furman, who also works with Diana, is incredible. And we know that they are champions of ensuring that older adults can thrive well at home. So this was a relationship built on trust. U.S. Aging, as Diana said, our network needs data. And especially in these economic times, we need to have data to back up our impact. We also need a nationally standardized data set to identify trends and to drive more impactful data analytics, as Diana said. So, what Better Age gives US Aging and our network is access to a nationally standardized data set. Rather than build it separately, we decided to combine forces and build it together.
Yeah, I mean,
Was there, you can both answer, was there a phone call, an email, a meeting at a conference, or what happened?
Oh, go ahead, Diana. We had lots of meetings.
We had lots and lots of meetings. When you want to get a partnership right, you don't want to rush into anything, right? And I will also just give credit to Sandy and Courtney and Jim Furman, our founder, who have known each other, saying, I don't want to date anybody, but let me just say more than 30 years. Is that about right? More than 20 or 30
Mhm.
years. And Mary, you go back with Jim also. I mean, I like to joke with Jim that for as long as he's been in the aging sector, he's actually mostly liked.
I can't say
He's-
I can't say enough about that. That's why I'm so excited about this partnership. I mean, I've worked with Jim since the White House conferences on aging during the Clinton administration with Bob Lancato. And so there was a lot of trust and talk about commitment and knowledge about healthcare and older people. What I kind of find magical about all of this is the areas of unknown resources that the AAAs have that now people can be more aware that as they do their own assessments, these are important resources to tap into. So I think you could get broader use. And I also think this partnership can scale faster.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, so the relationship is really important. There's a lot of history and trust among the three of you, Sandy, Courtney, Courtney Baldwin with US Aging, and
Mhm.
Jim. And now, of course, I feel like the lucky fourth to be brought into this, little circle of trust. Um, but really, what US Aging represents to a little tiny company like Better Age, just starting off, is we borrow reputation, right? We're a tiny little company who knows Better Age just yet, right? And so our philosophy, even when we started, was to really borrow the reputation of those that we're working with. And that's why we partner with community-based organizations that have been trusted in their communities for a really long period of time. But when you work one-on-one with these community-based organizations, there's a certain pace that you have to work. When you can work with a group like US Aging that can really advocate for all of the work that you do to their membership, which is strong and thirsty for new ideas, then you can accelerate that message. You can accelerate what you're trying to do. So, US, like I said, this partnership is something that we deliberated over for, I want to say, over a year, actually.
Mhm.
The first conversations were well over a year ago, and then the negotiations to really craft just the right partnership took over a year. And then when we finally signed it, it was like, of course, this is all the stuff that we had talked about. It just takes time to put it all on paper. But we're already seeing exactly what we wanted to from this partnership. The collaboration on the data standards, the collaboration on the acceleration of distribution of the technology, and the collaboration in the conversations with AAA directors around the country.
That's a
Yeah, I
great.
think from a deal
Go ahead, Sam.
perspective, it's a strategic alignment. US Aging brings the distribution and the community infrastructure. Better Age provides the scalable tech platform. It's really just a win-win. And most importantly, it's a win for older adults who get more personalized and measurable support.
That's
I
just terrific. And let me just say, Diana, you're talking about your tiny little company, but I understand you've got some more good news. Can you share with us?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to. Well, thanks for the ability to share. I don't want to take away from this conversation. Um, we are a tiny little company, but we are mighty. I like to, a small but mighty. About 3 years ago, we submitted an application for the NIH Small Business Innovation Research Grant Program. And that program is highly competitive, highly selective, and you have to really meet criteria across a number of different areas, including technology innovation, academic research rigor, and commercial potential, right? And also, of course, social significance. So we were awarded 3 years ago, no, sorry, 2 years ago, after many tries, a $2.5 million NIH SBIR grant. And then on Friday, we were awarded another one for $3 million. And we're excited about all of this because over the next 3 years, we have visibility into $5 million of NIH grant money. So, for a tiny company to have two principal investigators, myself and Jim Furman, lead two major projects is just a monumental change maker for us. And so I think US Aging should be happy that we are not going anywhere. We're here to stay. And that and the grant money just fuels our ambition to build amazing products for older adults.
I think that's wonderful news. We're very familiar with the work that Todd Hyman and his team do, and that's so impressive. I also think that there's geographic power in where you are. We just saw yesterday that AI companies are moving into the Twitter building in San Francisco. San Francisco is becoming an epicenter of research and data analytics and healthcare. I was over at UCSF just this week meeting with their geriatrics doctors who are all interested in social isolation. So we're seeing this from all segments. And of course, Sandy, being in Washington, where there's evolving changes in health policy that are supportive of data and scale and commercialization, you're all in the right direction at the right time. And that too is really exciting. Hoping to see everybody at our Washington conference in December to talk about some of these issues together in person. So Fred, exciting deal talk, lots of news.
Exactly. Congratulations to you both, Sandy and Diana. The sites for more info are usaging.org and betterage.net. Mary, we have another partnership to highlight between GoGo Grandparent and the state of New York. And with us is the director of the New York State Office on Aging, Greg Olson. Hi, Greg.
Hi, thanks. Nice to be back.
Good to see you. And from GoGo Grandparent, we're happy to welcome the CEO, Justin Bogard. Hi,
Thank you so
Justin.
much. Really stoked to be here talking about one of the coolest partnerships I've had a pleasure to be a part of.
Yes, we're so excited to have you both with us. You're focused on improving the lives of older adults. And, Greg, I think it would be good for you to start with your background because you actually have been in aging for a long time, but also your entrepreneurial path as the leader of the state of New York and how many deals you've done. And then Justin, you are one of my favorite clients because you have a very fast growing company at a time when we need transportation. The boomers are turning 80 next year, and I think it's a really huge market and you're reaching and serving a lot of people. So why don't we start with you, Greg?
Yeah, sure. Just by way of background, I'm a geriatrically trained social worker. So I started, working with families, going into their homes, doing an assessment, trying to understand, what they wanted, where they were, and to develop a plan of care for the sole purpose of remaining independent with dignity for as long as possible. And I've been very fortunate. I have run a bunch of statewide organizations that were actually designed by older adults. I was the chief of staff for the assembly chairman, for 4 years, and I've been in state government now through 4 governors, 18 years leading the organization. So I've got 33 years working with older adults. I think I have the best job in the country. All that matters to us is the clients that we serve, and helping them remain, like I said, as independent for as long as possible with a variety of different community-based support services.
And Justin, tell us about you.
Yeah, my background started in 2014 with my grandma. I was living with her for 3 years while I was working on some different sort of technology ideas with my co-founder, David Lung. They weren't going anywhere. And at the same time, grandma also wasn't going anywhere. She was needing help driving at night, going long distances. She asked me at a Sunday dinner for Uber's phone number. And I said, Grandma, wait, I don't think that's going to work. They don't really have a phone number. If you wanted to use them, you'd have to get good with a smartphone. And then she sort of looked across the table and said, well, you should make that. And David and I thought about it for a while. And then a couple months later, we went back to her and we said, Grandma, there's this idea, just like what you said. It's a number that you can call, you can get an Uber. And she called it. And she told her friends about it, and then we were off to the races from there. And that was 9 years ago. She was 85 at the time I moved out. She is 94 today, still using GoGo every week.
And you are famous, Justin. People magazine did a wonderful profile of you with your grandmother, Betty, over the summer. And let's talk now about this partnership with New York State. Greg, you're always so forward thinking, always looking for solutions for people. Tell us about the partnership and what it means.
Yeah, and I'll just walk through quickly the philosophy, right? We receive federal and state funding, but it's discretionary. And what that means is even though people are eligible, it doesn't mean that they get because there's a fixed amount of money. It's different from things like Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, HEAP, right? Things like that. So I'm always trying to find ways to do more with either less or creatively. And Justin had reached out to me. And I love his story because the first time I brought him to New York, he handed me his kind of his bio to read and told that story, but a little bit more self-depreciating. It was really funny. Like everything I've done up to this point, didn't work out. I love the story, and I'd never read a bio like that before. But it's really testament to him and what they've developed. Look, transportation is not a new issue. Going back to the first White House conference in the 70s, it's been a top three issue forever. Every single time there's been a White House conference. New York State, 95% of the state's geography has no public transportation. Public transportation assumes you know how to use it, you can physically use it, and you can afford it. So even if it's available, it doesn't mean it's available. And our agency provides we do about $25 million in transportation prior to our partnership with GoGo. So, Justin reached out to me because they had a really unique model, but it was during the pandemic where, what he was saying is, look, we can help get food to people. We can do X, Y, and Z. And we were pretty good on that front, but it was this really unique model of using, again, Uber, Lyft, and then those that go directly to GoGo to sign up. And I said, this is something I'm really interested in working with you on. I always have to plug the governor. I asked the governor, early on in the pandemic for 2.9 million. Well, I asked for 5 million. I got 2.9. But we've talked about ageless innovation, GoGo grandparent. We talked about, some of the other LEQ, et cetera. Those all are in my budget, which means that there's sustainability for our project with Justin. And now what we're trying to do is build upon those resources to keep it growing, because now it's mature in New York and people really love it. And if we have time, I could just give you a couple of examples of how counties are using it, because it's really filling in a specific gap, not just general transportation. So, to just
this is an expansion, right, Greg? This is an expansion. I'll let you both talk about that.
we did expand it, and we've also provided additional resources outside of Justin and mine's partnership, where counties now are building upon what we've already provided. So we've modeled it, we've tested it, we've expanded it, and it's now being replicated more. So and I just wanted to, again, plug Justin because he said at the beginning, and I was going to say that as well. It's been a spectacular partnership. His team is great. I don't think that they were used to working with a state government entity. So, there's always those things we got to work on together. But his team has been fantastic, and now it's being utilized in more than half of the counties in the state.
And I'd love to hear some of those use cases you were citing, because in earlier conversation I heard that there was one for affordable housing. Is that true?
Well, the contracts that we have with Justin basically gives a certain amount of money to each county office for the aging to meet unique needs. I'm sure there's other independent entities that are working with GoGo, but mine is my network. And so, I'll give you an example. Nassau County is right next to New York City. The only veterans hospital on Long Island is on the eastern side of Suffolk County. And so they're using it specifically to get veterans back and forth. In the Finger Lakes, the only occupational therapist is 100 miles away. So people from the southern end of the county to get to their OT we're using it that way. We have counties that have no dialysis at all. And without dialysis, you're dead. And so crossing borders, and we're having a lot more conversations with our counties because I don't dictate how you use it, and that's really important. They do, because they know their communities, they know what their needs are, and they'll ask me, can I do this? And my answer is, you can do whatever you want. You know your constituents, you know your communities, you know where the gaps are. And so there's a lot of those different types of things. One of our counties, a lot of people are being left at the hospital on Friday when they're being discharged. So they're using it to get people home from the hospital. So those are just some of the unique ways that they are really filling a huge gap that's been around for 60 years.
Sorry, Mary, go on.
I said it's really impressive, really impressive.
I was just going to say that I think a lot of people saw the news and then thought, "Oh man, this just showed up out of nowhere one day. How amazing!" But the story behind this partnership is something I wanted to take a moment to sort of plug. Greg and his team have been working with GoGo since 2020 on different iterations of how this funding can become something that sustainably supports older adults and their mobility. It didn't overnight become this like individual county delegation of funds that are running through a master contract that we have with the state. There were many different, sometimes little wacky ideas that we were trying over the last 4 years, and this is what kind of the community has picked up as the thing that is resonating the most with them. We both had to be willing to just kind of roll with the punches, maybe not know what was going to work, but come at it with a testing mindset, with the outcome, with the way that we're measuring success being, is this something that is helping communities, helping older adults achieve like the needs that they need to do to live independently in their community. And so yeah, I'm happy to talk more about that and sort of the iterations that this has taken over the last few years. But it was just a really great opportunity to work with someone as forward thinking as Greg and his team, and be able to pivot into something that really finally years later is like really working and helping communities. So that's just something I wanted to share.
Well, I think there are a lot of investors and entrepreneurs that listen to our podcast. And so I think the point about learning how to iterate, and really, Greg, you could give a master class in leveraging. You have a lot of older adults who serve in New York, and so many entrepreneurs and companies are looking to provide products and services. Give our audience a sense of what you're looking for in making a deal or a partnership. And I like that you cited the White House Conference on Aging, because I went to 4 of them through the past 40 years. And when you said transportation is one of the 3 key issues, I guess I'd ask what are the other 2, but then help us learn how's it best to approach you if you're an entrepreneur or an investor who's funded an entrepreneur. And then how have you helped Ageless and Get Set Up and Intuition Robotics and GoGo? Have you helped them leverage that into multiple markets? Because it really is the expansion that really we all can learn from each other. And I'd like to hear from you, Justin, about how you see the work you put into making a partnership work. I mean, Jeff Zimmern always says, make your partner more successful than you. Start with your partner. I think that's a bit of good advice, but what do you?
Yeah, so there's multiple questions there. I'll answer the first one. What am I looking for? No idea, but I'll know it when I see it. So
Mhm.
transportation was a big deal. There's a lot of things we're doing, combat social isolation. We partnered with them. We're partnering with platforms to identify potential scam and fraud prior to somebody being scammed. So it's really difficult. Look, I didn't expect to be what people think I am, like this leader in tech. What I expected to be was, how can I serve more people? We live in a tech society. Older adults use tech at the same rate everybody else. And I can serve, right now, we're serving 1.5 million more people at no cost to them. The cost is to us. So, how can people reach out to me? Well, I think you guys send a lot of people my way because
Yeah.
I've been vetting companies for the last 4 years. And those that I think, basically fill a gap that I know exists because I've been doing this work for a really long time, or those that I'm interested in. We like to measure things because, again, the strategy isn't, I can't fund everything for anybody. But my counties, first of all, they trust my judgment. If I'm paying for it, it makes it a lot easier, right? Um, but in addition to what I'm able to provide, and Justin knows this, we and our other partners, there is a whole private pay market out there. We are not the beginning and we're not the end. And so there are people like my father who, is retired but has plenty of money where this is an option for him. There are managed long-term care plans, there are Medicare Advantage, there's others that are providing transportation that could be doing these types of things. And then there's people like me that could afford to purchase them on behalf of my parents. So the strategy is not one, there's many of them, right? I would say, and I'd really be interested in Justin's perspective on this, but I've told, both you, Fred and Mary, this many times. Having my logo on somebody's product is a green light that it's been tested, it's been vetted, and it's trusted. And so then, I get the fortunate to go to, events that you put on. You have me speak. I speak at a lot of national conferences, and I list all the partnerships. So GoGo's on there, Ageless is on there, and from our partnership with Ageless Innovation, our model has been replicated in over 40 states. And so there's a lot to that, knowing that we've done it first, we trust it, we have the outcome measures, and it's basically it's okay to do it yourself because we've already done it.
Yeah, it's very well said. Justin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the better ways to think about Greg and the opportunity that his office can present to companies that are trying to get into this space, it's certainly true that they have, if you are able to meet a need that is important to aging in a community, you should talk to Greg. That is absolutely true. But at the same time, the benefit that you're going to get is more so in distribution than it is going to be in some like unlimited check. No one's company is going to be able to, become a rocket ship purely by Greg's endorsement. At least maybe one day, if he continues down this route, you're probably going to be a VC pretty soon here, Greg. But at least for right now, that's the case. And what you do get though is access to dozens of counties, over 50 counties throughout the state of New York that have individual personal relationships with the types of customers that your product should be solving problems for. And if it's not solving problems for them, that's going to be feedback for you that you got through this partnership. Maybe it was funded in part by Greg, but that feedback and the learning that you get from that is going to be what is more valuable over the long term and will continue to pay dividends. And so that's how we've approached this. Our model that we've tested out again over years with New York State is something now that there's over 100 different cities and counties and other state governments that we're able to bring this to. And yeah, I think that you should consider Greg a great place to start, but just like what he said, it's not a place to end. And the best advantage that he can bring a company isn't necessarily a check. It's more of this distribution model that can get your product into the hands of people that theoretically should be able to get value from it.
Well,
And
go,
I have
go
mentioned
ahead.
at your conference before, and this is important for any investors that are looking to invest in a particular solution. They need to also invest in an implementation with an agency like mine or others, because I don't have unlimited resources. Like I said, it's discretionary. And so, the building of, whatever the solution or the platform is really important, but there also needs to be a legitimate community testing so you can figure out, does it work? What are the types of tweaks you need to make? How can you measure it? What are those measurements showing? So then you can go broader.
Justin, I was going to say, tell us a little bit. You're what, a decade old now? Is that right? Wow.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Personally or
10,
professionally?
I'm not
10
talking
years,
about you. I'm talking about the
right.
company.
Yeah,
But
10 years
uh,
young. Yeah, that's
but
right. 10 years
t
next year.
t tell us about the growth, where you're at today.
Yeah, I think that it took us. My dad says that the first 5 years was a very expensive and long MBA program, and I would agree with that. I think that at the beginning, GoGo was serving this need for my grandma and her friends through her like social clubs and stuff, and that need specifically was characterized as a ride. We were a taxi company for older adults, and that got us pretty far. But something really changed in the pandemic when clients couldn't leave their homes and then the true needs became apparent to us. They were using a ride to get groceries or to get to a critical medical appointment or to get medication that they needed. And then we really reoriented around, okay, what is the aging journey? And if we want to help our clients be successful, how do we change our business to reflect that? And so one thing was aligning incentives. GoGo is now for our private pay customers, so not through this partnership with New York State, but private pay customers are able to find us. Able to find us on their own. We're a membership service. And if you think about it, that model makes the most sense. You want to live independently in your home for as long as possible. If we're a membership model that pays a monthly fee, we also want you to continue living in your home as long as possible. And it's up to us to begin to think about what it takes to help you do that. Because I think part of the aging journey that's so hard is that not everyone knows exactly what it's going to look like. You can hear stories from people that have done that before, but it's not the same as doing it yourself or caring for a loved one who's going through it, in that moment. We hopefully can all kind of appreciate how hearing about it and going through it are two different things. And so how can GoGo be this virtual concierge that's able to address the needs that a person might have? And as we got pretty clear-eyed around that mission, that really started to take off. And so I would say that for the last 4 and pretty soon 5 years on that mission, we've been able to build a really durable offering that helps families and really specifically loved ones. Everyone asks, oh, you must do most of your marketing to family members. It's certainly true. Maybe about 20% of our client base is coming to us from a family member, but the other 80% are people finding us on their own, looking for a solution that can help them continue to live independently for a long time. And as we've been able to double down and triple down on that message, things have, things have taken off in a way that just wasn't happening in those first few years. And so I'm really excited about what that mission can, what kind of problems and solutions that mission will, I'm sorry, what kind of solutions that problem will, what kind of solutions that mission will need us to solve in order to tackle the problems that people are experiencing. Happy to talk more about what's on the horizon, but yeah, I would say that's how the journey has felt.
You opened the door, Mary. He wants to talk about what's next.
Uh,
Well, we'd love to hear about that. But Greg and Justin, might there be more communities in New York State that you're serving?
Well, that's always the goal, Mary. So, we're very fortunate, like I said, that projects and partnerships we have with GoGo, they're not going away. Some of the other things that I'm working on are year-long pilots, because they're not in my budget. We tried, individually, meaning myself. Justin did individually himself, and we did it together to try to increase the budget. So we're gonna keep doing that. I think the big uncertainty, and this is going to be true for anybody who is looking to work with government, is the where we are with federal and state funding that's coming down the pike, and does that at a time where these things need to grow because they work. are we going to be shrinking them because of, federal budget cuts? And then ultimately that trickles down to state budget cuts, which trickles down to county budget cuts, right? So that's yet to be seen. But, those are the things that I'm concerned about. So what's next? Continue to push to grow because it meets a huge, huge need.
Well, you told me that my conference in December is the most important one that we've done. And I agree with that. I took that to heart. We know that caregiving is going to be front and center on that agenda. And we're attempting to get the decision makers around some of those budgets there to discuss and to hear from these case studies. I also think there's a time for other investors, and we're hearing from investors from Cyprus to Hong Kong that want to come into the market and partner and help these partnerships grow. So I think there's no end from media companies and others as you iterate your business plan to see more stakeholders come to the table. We haven't given up on our idea of doing one of our conferences in New York, Craig, and bringing some of those financial stakeholders to the table. You know, Justin, I'm very inspired by the story with your grandmother. We could bring back Sunday dinner, I think, where we have these conversations with grandparents. And you remind me of my mentor, Lloyd Morissette, another New Yorker, who at dinner one night said to Joan Cooney, she had the idea for Sesame Street of children in television. He said, what if we did that? And then he went on to fund my work for 10 years in SeniorNet. So I think those conversations around the dinner table and then the commitment to the aha moment. And I know Ted Fisher has done a really good job of listening to older adults. And when they've had ideas, following up with their ideas too. So we could bring back those conversations, those listening, and then just amazing people around the table, because it's been a joy to have and work with people like the two of you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It's a
Justin,
pleasure working with you, and this has been a fantastic partnership with Justin, and see what the future brings.
Justin,
That's right.
you want to touch on that? What will the future bring? So are there some new plans to talk about?
I remember one time, so the way it started with Greg was incredible. And it was, we did a call, gave the pitch, and he was like, I love this. Like, we're going to get back to you. And, you do this enough times, you hear that hundreds of times. And do the people get back to you? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The next call goes, maybe a month goes by, another call happens, and Greg's like, great, we have a budget. We're going to get started. This is the plan. Can you do this? And we're like, oh, yes, we definitely can. Here, we'll get back to you just maybe next week. So we schedule a follow-up call for the week after. Comes in, great. I got more budget. Oh, also, it's a 30-year partnership. and we I was trying to keep a cool demeanor. Call ends, immediately call the team. We're just like, did he say 30? Someone's like, no, he said 13. But then even 13, no, he said 30. And so that was very cool. And I think it was really nice to hear that, because when that's the case, it is actually way better and strategically correct for you to spend the first 3, 4, 5 years to a startup on a time scale that feels like eons. But when you know that you have a partner who's investing in the long term, you really want to take that early time to make sure that you're getting it right. So what's coming next? I think that for the partnership, I would say that this is certainly our largest partnership in such a large geographical region that spans so many different types of geographies. And by that, I mean, you have urban centers, suburban centers, rural communities, and then certainly some frontier communities where population density drops below, 1 person per square mile. And in those frontier communities, GoGo does struggle. And so how can we take advantage of the scale that this partnership affords us to try to fill in our own supply of drivers or contracts with driving companies that can be in more of those rural communities? Because rural communities, they have more of a need, but maybe less people. So there's a little bit less volume, but they have more of a need. What's the calculus on that you need to do. And so we've been trying to shoehorn this opportunity at New York State into a broader initiative of bringing on more wheelchair accessible vehicles onto GoGo, more companies that are operating in rural regions into GoGo. And I think in the immediate term, you're going to see a lot more of that. And just because you're indulging the monologue, you can edit this out later. But I think on the broader term, when we've been thinking about what does a 30-year partnership mean, not just to Greg, but to New York State, we've thought about, okay, this would be the most exciting to a state because one of the top three items of almost every state's budget is healthcare expenses. And so how can GoGo help communities reduce downstream healthcare expenses associated with older adults? And when you really start to get into that, there's some interesting things that open up. It's probably maybe a little bit too technical to get into on this call, but depending on the way that we describe ourselves as a virtual concierge or a virtual caregiver. You can also call us a care navigator. And if you do that, and if we can be that, all of a sudden now different pots of money can open up at the federal level that would reimburse some of the services that we're doing, not just for Greg's clients, but for all of our consumer clients that could we wouldn't just be helping them with their errands. We'd be able to help them think about their comprehensive partnership between their physicians and their personal lives such that we can keep them living in their home longer, which most people want to do anyway. It's not just good for them. The key insight is that it's good for the healthcare system. It's good for all of us that are paying into that system. And so if you can sing that song and have that be real and true, then you open up a lot of positive ROI that can benefit older adults' lives.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm looking at, because Justin is spot on. So we have $1 trillion cuts in Medicaid. The grants just came out for the $50 billion for rural healthcare. That was part of the bill that was passed a couple of months ago. And the number one reason that especially older adults don't make a doctor's appointment is because of transportation, and then they still get charged the copayment. So there's they're putting out money for areas. So we're going to be talking about those grants next week, and this is something, meaning our partnership with GoGo, that I plan on bringing to the table, because as hospitals close or certain wings close, lack of emergency medical services, so on and so forth, access to transportation is going to be that much more important, and we have a workable solution already in New York.
Well, that's really exciting. I mean, it's really necessary that people get to these appointments. I also think you probably have a passion play too. I was at a concert on Sunday, and that was a Beatles tribute band. The whole audience was boomers singing and dancing. They wanted a ticket to ride. And I'm not sure how long they're going to be driving their car. So I do think that it's really interesting to think of music as part of the answer in the future, that it's all of the kinds of things that they might want to do, whether it's going to their memorial service, the grocery store, and with people turning 80 in 5 years, there are going to be a lot of single older people without transportation.
Well, I mean, over 1 million older adults give up their keys every year, and that's not an easy thing to do because of the way that our communities were organized after World War II with suburbia, right? And we are a culture, right? It's grandma, apple pie, and Chevrolet. We are so hooked on the vehicles that we drive. What do you drive, right? I mean, it's so ingrained in us. And it's really hard to have those conversations with somebody because you lose your ride, you lose your independence. And that's what we're trying to undo here.
Well, you're doing brilliant work, and we need to let you go, but it was a great session.
Well, thank you, Greg and Justin. Mobility is so important to the quality of life for us all. We also want to thank Sandy and Diana once again. And of course, we appreciate our sponsor for this episode, AMBA, providing technology to enable responsive, personalized, and effective care. Discover how AMBA can benefit your facility, your residents, their families, and caregivers. Find more at ambahealth.com. We want to thank all of you for taking the time to watch or listen. Remember, you can always find us and the Living Longer, Better, Smarter podcast as well at maryfurlong.com/podcast.